the girl, like he was worshiping himself. But the Philistines were Israelites' army, and so he was doing it for that and just to obey the king. We thought he was worshiping God, so that's what we
Victory!
It just depends where his heart was at. He's like, it's a win. All right, back to you.
No.
One That's what happened worshiping himself. We see in the video that he was lusting after Bathsheba, but when we read in the Bible, it really went a lot further, and that was not what God wanted him to do, obviously. And so he's worshiping himself. Good job. Thanks. You can sit back down.
So yeah, as you can see, David's life so much like our own that sometimes you got it right and just other times you got it so wrong. But I think that's a lot of the reason that David's life and his stories are so endearing to us, because we see ourselves in them quite often. But they show us that while we're exactly the same as he is, that we have an amazing hope that one day, like as Paul says of David in Acts 13:22, that David was a man after God's own heart. No matter how many times he stuffed up, he was still a man after God's own heart. So Reese was one of the lecturers that we had here, and he said something really, really good that I think affected a lot of people. It was something along the lines of, every opportunity to act selfishly and sinfully is an opportunity for victory over acting selfishly and sinning. So I'll say that again. Every opportunity to act selfishly and sinfully is an opportunity for victory over acting selfishly and sinning. We learned earlier that the whole of creation can be used to keep our eyes firmly on God in weird, wonderful, inventive and imaginative ways. No matter where we go, what we do, God is everywhere around us, and we can focus on that whenever we choose. David had the choice. He could choose to worship God, he could choose to worship self. We all have the same choice. 1 Chronicles 16:29. Ascribe to the Lord the glory due his name. Bring an offering and come before him. Worship the Lord in the splendour of his holiness. Now, worship was a great word in the Hebrew, and in Greek it means almost exactly the same thing. And it means to bow and kneel down, genuflecting in humility. Much the same as Mephibosheth came in here. I said it right. Came in, knees down, face to the ground, worship. That is how we're supposed to do it. That's how it was supposed to be done. But Jesus tells us in John 4, somewhere here, when he's talking to the woman around Jacob's well, the Samaritan woman, he says, Jesus declared, "Believe me, woman, a time is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews. Yet a time is coming, and has now come, when the true worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth, for they are the kind of worshippers the Father seeks. God is spirit, and the worshippers must worship in spirit and in truth." Now Jesus is the way and the truth and the life. We need to worship Jesus for all he has done and for all he's doing within us. But more so than that, we are to worship in spirit, which means we don't have to get down on our knees, genuflecting, but we do have to do that in a spiritual way, like in a spiritual sense. We have to come before God in all humility and genuflect. I mean, if everyone knows what that is, to come fully surrendering to God. And so we're no longer limited to worship in the Old Testament way, in Jerusalem, in anything like that. We can now do it in the car, in the cubicle, in the classroom, in the countryside. We can worship wherever we want, however we want, as long as it doesn't cause anyone else to stumble. We can worship in the world around us, just looking around as we did earlier on, and we can choose to worship, or we can choose not to worship. So we need to grasp every opportunity to worship. It is your choice, and it's within your power to become a worshipper of the living God. So if I could have the worship team back up again.